Welcome to Conversing Over Drinks with your host, Cedric Turner. And today we have a special guest. We have Miss Stephany Ann, an extraordinary woman, an attorney, a recipient. Oh my God, I cannot talk this evening. A recipient. I can't say that word for anything today. I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry. I'm very tired. Of the Governor's Award for Advocacy. I can't say that either. And an international bestseller. I am so sorry for my word fumbling. It is late here in Japan, and I am very tired. But I had to stay up so that we could do this episode because I feel like this would be a great episode for my fans to hear and something that they would enjoy hearing. So, Miss Stephany, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience?
Hey, thank you so much for having me on your show today, Cedric. Again, my name is Stephany Ann. I am an attorney and I am an expert on domestic violence and narcissistic abuse. And it is my goal to spread awareness to more people on what narcissistic abuse is, what does it look like, what's the cycle of abuse, how can you tell if you're in an emotionally and psychologically abusive relationship. So I'm here to share my story from a personal perspective, but also from a professional experience as well. I, found myself on the floor in my sister's bathroom, just tears streaming down my cheeks, and just crying out to God, like, "Why me? What did I do wrong? Why me? I've done everything so right in my life. Why can't I get relationships right?" So on the outside, I looked like a very successful person, but on what was going on inside in my world and in my family, I was with I was married to two psychologically and emotionally abusive men. Yet I did not realize I was in these abusive relationships. So my background is in domestic violence. Um, but 20 years ago, when we would talk about domestic violence, we were really just focused on physical violence. So what happens when you're in a relationship that is not physically abusive, but you are confused and you know that something is not right? It doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. What happens then? How do you get out? How do you seek support? How do you even know you're in it?
Those are very good questions. One thing that I always wonder is we always tend to be attracted to a certain trait. As human beings and as men and as women, we're attracted to certain things. And it goes back to the psychology of our thinking. It's always men are attracted to women who most resemble their mother. And women are attracted to most men who resemble their father. So, with that indignation in our heads, in our minds, and the way that we move around, was that something that you started to notice? Like, was your father narcissistic, or was there anything that you were noticing there, or is that just something that you were just like, I don't know why I'm attracted to this?
So, that's a really, really good question. And it's a question I've asked myself over and over again. And it's a question that most people who find themselves in these abusive relationships, we ask over and over again. One of the biggest myths out there is that in order for you to be in like a narcissistic abusive relationship, you had to suffer all this childhood trauma, and now you're manifesting all of this, you're working it all out. Well, I come from a very good family. My
Hmm.
parents are still married. My dad, I have three other sisters. I come from a family of all girls, and I had a very close relationship with my father. Yeah, I played sports all the way. I was the son my dad never had. Played sports all the way. Played sports in college. You know, um, and so no, I had a very good relationship. But here's the thing about narcissists: they are charming. They are the life of the party. They are beautiful, charismatic people. Anybody can fall for a narcissist.
That's
And
very
it
true.
and so in fact, like, I'll go with my second husband just because he was the most recent. He charmed my whole family. My parents loved him in the beginning. My brother-in-law, who I made, I had him do the brother-in-law test. My brother-in-law is a former Marine. He is the OSP sergeant. He was charmed by my ex-husband as well. They can charm anyone. So if you look at what is a narcissist is someone who has, they must have a certain number of these narcissistic traits to be diagnosed as a narcissist. And a narcissist is a disordered personality. So with narcissism, we could go back to, okay, maybe there was some childhood trauma, maybe there was some generational narcissism, maybe, we're a product of our genetics, but we're more so a product of our environment. So what sort of environment did they grow up in? How did they become a narcissist? So a narcissist is someone with this grandiose sense of self-importance, this grandiose sense of entitlement. They are charismatic. They're fun. They're beautiful. They know how to work a crowd. They know how to work a room. They have these unlimited thoughts of power, beauty, wealth. They feel like they are the most important person, the most special person, and only you understand them. And so, if you walk into a room and there's someone who's lighting up the room and they're just charming everyone, but then they focus all their attention on you and they see you, doesn't that feel good? That's how it is in the beginning. And then they put a mask on to the world because, again, remember, it's a disordered personality. So they become all these different people. In the beginning, they become the person you want them to be. They see you, they hear you, and they understand you because they are mirroring you. And so anyone can fall for a narcissist.
Yeah, and it's very good definition of a narcissist. And it just harkens me back to one of my questions of, and it just brings, like, I'm an old school country boy, raised my grandfather was a military guy. Just gave me all types of good phrases and stuff. He said, "Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you." The first marriage was the fool me once. Oh, what led to the second marriage?
Yeah, so they were both very different. So again, narcissism and narcissists are like on a spectrum. There's all different types. So my first husband, he was a covert narcissist. So covert is exactly the way it sounds. These are the people who, in public, they present one personality. So these are the ones, they're leaders in the community. They're pillars in the community. They're pillars in the church. They're involved. They're the ones that, you're at church and the old lady at church needs her house painted or needs someone to do this. They're the first to volunteer. Everyone loves these people. Then they go home and they are a completely different person. They manipulate, they gaslight, you're walking on eggshells. It's very contentious, but it is so subtle, coercive control. And what is challenging is that people out in the community do not see this real person. So it is, we call it a covert narcissist. And so my first husband was a covert narcissist. He was exactly everything I explained. And he, his big thing, so he was a cheater. And how many of us do that? We put infidelity and cheating over on one side. And then we put abuse on the other side. We don't always put the two together. If someone is cheating, if someone is having an affair, if someone is, even if it's emotional or physical, that is abuse. And so for a long time, I didn't see it as abuse. It was just, he was a cheater.
Hmm.
And, he was in the medical profession. So all medical people cheat. So our brains go there. We form these stereotypes. And
Yeah.
so he actually left for another married woman in the church. And so we went to church together. We did all of that. And again, he's the leader of the church and of the community. And so when a couple of years had passed and I thought I was ready to start dating again, I made the list. And how many of us do that? We write out the list of, okay, tall, dark, handsome, whatever, whatever we're looking for, the character traits. And I had a very detailed list, threw it out to the universe. And a week later, I meet a man who checks off every single thing on that list. So in the beginning, when which is the idealization phase of narcissistic abuse, there's idealization, devaluation, and discard. So the idealization phase, where they are perfect, wonderful, charming, charismatic, everything you want them to be, he would throw words around like, "You're my soulmate.
Hmm.
I prayed for a woman like you, and here you are. Well, I prayed for a man like you, and here you are. You must be my soulmate." And then everything happens very quickly because in the idolization phase, they become the person you want them to be. They mirror your values. They mirror your hobbies. They mirror your everything that you are looking for in a partner. They become that most perfect, wonderful partner that you've been looking for. That's the first phase. And so when I met my second husband, I didn't know he was a narcissist. I wasn't out there looking for red flags. In fact, it was a little bit of the opposite because in my first marriage, it had been so horrible. He was a cheater. He was all these things. And so I didn't want to be this hyper vigilant person always looking for negative things in a partner. So I tuned that out and said, I'm choosing to trust him. I'm choosing to believe everything he says. And I had manifested him. But here's the thing that in hindsight, it's like we get what we asked for. And I also got all the unlearned lessons from my first marriage.
Huh. Well, see, this is all very new to me, and I think it would be new to my audience. I feel as much as I try to do episodes for uh, the females of my audience, most of my episodes are directed towards the males. We talk about sports, we talk about comedy, we talk about men's mental health, so it's always directed towards the male point of view. And so this is very interesting and intriguing. But my question is, we hear it from the female side, but how can a male see that in a woman?
Yeah, so just flip the script. It is so common in narcissistic women. Narcissistic women are the exact same. They are the most beautiful woman you could ever imagine.
Hmm.
They intensely want to get to know you. They want to know everything about you. They want to know about your past relationships. They want to know about your insecurities. They want to get to know the vulnerable you really quickly. And so you start opening up, you give your heart to them, and then they take it and use it against you in the devaluation. So similarly, if I always tell people, in law, we have this, there's this phrase, it's called caveat emptor, buyer beware. If it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true.
Hmm.
And really look for the red flags because, when you're first getting to know someone, when they are just so glamorous and charismatic and charming, they want to spend all their time with you and they really want to get to know you because in the beginning they really focus all their attention on you. So doesn't that make you feel good? Doesn't that make you feel special if a woman wants really wants to get to know you. And here she is. She's this, beautiful woman that you've always wanted. She meets all the requirements. She meets everything on the checklist. But they don't really, because it's all a facade. It's an illusion. And so what happens is they get you sucked in. They get you um, uh, not stuck, but they get you to a place where you give them your heart
Hmm.
too quickly, too soon, and then you want to do everything for this person, because that's what a typical healthy relationship is, right? It's give and take, give and take. But with a narcissist, in the beginning they give, but when the mask comes off and the devaluation phase happens, all they do is take, take, take. And so what happens is, once they have you hooked and committed to them, it can be weeks, it can be months, it can be a year. And for me, it was, we got married, we met in 2019, got married in December 2019. And he was wonderful and perfect and everything I ever wanted in a partner. And then the mask came off at the same time the world shut down in 2020. So again, it's very confusing, because it's what was 2020 and what was actually his true behavior.
Yeah.
So the next phase in the cycle of narcissistic abuse is devaluation.
Hmm.
That's where one day they're perfect and the next day they take their mask off and they stop pretending to be the person that you wanted them to be. So this is where the manipulation and the gaslighting starts. So for your audience, gaslighting, that's kind of a big word that's thrown around nowadays, but what really is gaslighting? So gaslighting is when you manipulate another person into doubting their perceptions, experiences, or understanding of events. So it is a form of emotional abuse. In fact, it is a highly calculated form of manipulation. It's coercive control, and it's by someone you trust. So you can only gaslight an intimate partner or someone in that trust capacity. So like an attorney client. I could gaslight a client
Yeah.
because we have a trusting relationship. And so why do they gaslight? Well, they gaslight because it is a way for the abuser to avoid responsibility or blame for their actions. If they can say that never happened, or that never happened the way you described it, they can make you start to doubt your perception. They can make you start doubting your reality. So common gaslighting phrases, which, if your listeners have heard these, they could be being gaslit by someone. It is, you are too sensitive. Stop taking everything so personally. It's a joke. I'm just being sarcastic. I'm just speaking my truth right now. You can't handle my truth. That's not my fault. And and so
I guess one of my questions is and I'm just going to speak from personal, because my audience and my listeners know that we keep everything completely honest on the podcast. They know my life story if they've listened to the podcast. Um, how do you differ from someone being narcissistic and not? Because it seems like a lot of things that you have labeled as narcissistic behavior is stuff that, like, I look at myself, I look at my friends, and I'm like, some of us do that all the time, and I don't see them as narcissistic people. Um,
okay,
but I
so
just
so
see them
gaslighting.
having characteristics.
Gaslighting,
Yeah,
yeah. So gaslighting, again, remember, it's a relationship by someone you trust and someone who's close to you. So usually, I mean, your friends can joke around and do all that, but if it is an intimate partner,
yeah,
who is manipulating you and gaslighting you, that's control. That's coercive control.
Hmm.
And so, again, the whole thing with domestic violence and narcissistic abuse is power and control. And so, going back to the other part, a narcissist must meet all the traits. And some people say, well, some narcissistic traits, what if you have some? Well, think of narcissism as a cake. Okay. When you bake a cake, and when you do any baking for that matter, you have to follow this like scientific formula. You have to have eggs, you have to have flour, you have to have baking powder, you have to have baking soda, you have to have all the ingredients. And if you leave something out, like if I were to leave out uh, eggs and baking soda, I'm not going to have a cake, right? I'm going to have something completely different, maybe a Cliff Bar.
Hmm.
It's not going to be a cake. And so for a narcissist, they must have all of these traits. And for people who say, well, isn't it good to be, to have a healthy self-confidence, a healthy ego? Yeah, those are great. That's not a narcissistic trait, because a narcissistic trait is they have a grandiose ego and they come across as being secure and super confident, but really it is a mask for extremely low self-esteem, extremely fragile ego. They have some of the most fragile egos, and you can tell if you were to put them in like a stressful situation, you could see that they just can't handle it. They are not flexible people. Whereas in a healthy relationship, um, there's a lot of flexibility. So, for instance, say you're going up, you're going on a trip and you're going to the airport. The airport is one of the most stressful places. Everyone's like high anxiety. Am I going to miss my flight, or my bag is going to make it? Um, but with a healthy person, they lose their bags, they miss their flight. They're not going to have this huge emotional tantrum, right? We're just like, that sucks, and you
Yeah.
just deal, right? With someone with a narcissistic personality, they flip out, they lose it, they go into these rages, they can't handle um, the anxiety, the stress, and they flip out.
Hmm.
And so, there is a big difference, and with someone who is a narcissist.
Okay.
And so, I don't know. Does that make a little bit more sense now?
Yeah. No. I mean, uh, this is not new information to me. Is so I'm mainly asking questions I think that my audience would answer that they would
Okay.
ask. Because I mean, this kind of fits my background. I have my degree in criminal justice. I thought for a long time I was going to be a lawyer, um, and I just decided not to do it. And
Ah.
decided to teach instead. Which when I look at my paycheck and stuff, I'm like, I should have been a lawyer. But it's 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 just asking questions that I feel like my audience are going to ask and they're going to want to know, and it's just helping them, like kind of being a mouthpiece for them in a sense. Um, no, I've dealt with narcissistic people before, and at one point in time, I felt as myself that I was a narcissist. Like I felt like I had those traits because I was, but it's like you said, they have to hit every point, like where narcissists were tried to hide their insecurities and their uh their fragile ego. I kind of wear that on my sleeve. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, there's stuff I'm insecure about, and you know
Mhm.
it. And there's stuff that I like. Everyone has an ego. Like there's no one that doesn't have an ego. I was like, everyone has an ego. It's just how you handle your ego. And I've always been very calm about my ego. Like there's certain things where I'll get a little upset about, but most times I'm just kind of chill and I'm just like, it is what it is. And but my buddies, when we joke around, uh one of the big narcissist things is when you say they're a beautiful person. I was like, I've never put myself in that category. So I was like, I've always put myself in a category of between being cute and ugly, and I call it
Yeah.
Canuggly.
uh,
And my friends would always ask me, they're like, "What do you mean by that?" I'm like, because man, there could be two girls in the room, and to one, she'll be like, "Oh, he's kind of cute," and the other will be like, "Nah, he ugly." I was like, "That's where I sit. That's where I am." I was, I was like, so I don't see that at all. I was like, so that's one check mark off the narcissist list for me. I was like, but it is traits where you see it in some people, and it's great to have people on here that are experts about it, because it's something that people want to diagnose in people so quickly because they see a few traits, and
mhm.
it's not something that you can just say that quickly that someone is a narcissist. It's everyone has different traits. They all have behavior. I was like, we all show behaviors of different things that would put you in psychologically in different categories all the time. But it's if you don't have that perfect blend, then you're just someone walking through life trying to figure things out.
Yes, yes, exactly, and probably some unhealed parts of yourself as well. But to be really considered a narcissist, have to you have to be like the cake. You have to have all the ingredients that make it up. Otherwise, you're just something else.
Yeah. So, like I said at the beginning of the show, you are a international bestseller. Do you want to tell my audience anything about your book, title, where to get it, how to get it?
Um, yeah, well, for that book, it was in a compilation with other authors as
Mm,
well, and I just kind of wrote about um, post traumatic uh, abuse,
yeah.
which is secondary post traumatic abuse, which is kind of like, okay, we've gone through all of this abuse, we've had all this crappy stuff happen to us, but how can we turn that around for good? It's kind of like the why me to for me. In the
Mm,
beginning I was saying why me, what I do wrong
yeah.
here, but really being able to look at the good in everything that you've went through, and how can you use that to make a difference in other people's lives, and in the world and stuff. So I wrote an article along with that book. I've taken the whole year off right now. I'm not practicing and I'm not working with people one on one, but I'm writing a series of books right now on narcissism. Well, not really on
Mm,
narcissism. It's called When You Love a Narcissist. It's
mm,
all the everything that you go through,
yeah.
and how to find yourself, how to become empowered after you went through everything, to find out the for me after all the abuse.
Yeah. That sounds like a great project. Like it really sounds good. I mean, it kind of feels like the break I've kind of taken as well. Uh, Being here in Japan, teaching, I have become very bored because it's um, our program here is more of an after school program. So I'm not teaching like I would in the States. Like I'm not teaching from like 9 to 3 every day. Like I'm teaching from like 4 to 6. And so like that's the
Oh
rest of
wow.
the rest of the time I'm just bored. And so I've started writing a book, and it's just the character I'm building. The big reason I really wanted to do this episode was one to get a lot of information out about narcissist
Hmm.
behavior, and get more awareness about it, so that more people are more aware about the people that they surround themselves with. I've always been a big person about you keep your circle very small, And that's another thing I learned from my old country grandfathers. You keep your circle very small. The bigger it is, the more it's just a lot of fake people in it. And so I've always
Mhm.
wanted to do episodes with people to kind of help them review the people that keep around them. And then the book that I'm writing right now, the more and more that I build my character, the more and more I feel like I'm building a narcissist. So I was like, I wanted to I kind of wanted to read up on it and more about it and be like, man, I hope I'm not building a narcissist guy in this story. Uh, but it's also something that I've this is another narcissist thing that I feel like I have narcissist trait is the gaslighting and wanting like doing things intentionally to make people feel a certain way. Like the way I'm writing this book, like I'm intentionally like boosting this guy up so that people fall in
Mhm.
love with him. So that when I cut his legs from underneath them, they're just pissed off. And and I was like, I want that reaction. Like I always felt like that's the greatness of writing, um, being
Mhm.
able to uh, really grip the reader and like have them invested. Like I feel like if you're invested into a character, you're going to read that book uh, until
Absolutely.
you figure out what that character is doing and how they're going to be. And right now, I want that character to just grab a hold of them and they just be so excited for that character. And I just want to cut his legs off from underneath them and just shatter their hearts. And I feel like that as bad as that sounds, I just feel like that would be a great book. just feel,
Yeah, well,
feel
with the
uh,
with all like the true crime out there
uh,
and everyone wanting these thrillers and stuff. Well, you
yeah.
would have to maybe model him after my second husband, who is a malignant narcissist, borderline sociopath.
Oh wow.
They are the worst. They are the most scary.
Yeah.
They do not hide. I mean, my second husband is a self-proclaimed asshole. He hates everyone, and everyone hates him.
Oh
And
wow.
and and he used to call my first ex-husband. He used to call him a narcissist. They would call each other narcissists. Oh, he's such a narcissist. No, he's a narcissist. I'm just like, good God, get me out of here.
So what would you say to women who are dealing with these type of relationships or anybody that's dealing with these type of relationships? How do you get out of them? Like how do you get out of them? How do you try to prevent them? Because I mean, like you said, the greatest characteristic of a narcissist is their charm. Like they can charm
Yeah.
anybody. They can charm anyone. They like I've always made it a joke, but I only made it a joke because people don't like hearing the truth. And I was like, people hate hearing the truth. They rather listen to the lie than ever hear the truth because the truth makes them question themselves. And so I would always make it a joke, and I would tell people, I was like, you can always tell when someone thinks that they're good looking or they're attractive. I was like, because they're more of an asshole. Because assholes can get, I was like, assholes can get away with it because of their attractiveness. I was like, you can be an asshole if you're an attractive person because people just be like, but they look good. Like that's just them. Yeah. I was like, and I've always said, I was like, you can always tell when someone who has never like understood how attractive they were because they're super nice. I was like, because they feel like they have to be overly nice for people to like them because they don't feel like they attract people. And so it was always a thing where I was like, man, you could just tell by the way somebody talks how they feel about themselves. Like if the
Yeah.
way they carry themselves, the way that they talk to people, they feel that yeah, I'm good. Like I look good. People look at me. I'm okay. I can say whatever and get away with it. And then you have the people who are extremely nice and just want to please everybody. And it's because they're so self conscious about the way they look. And they're like, this is the only way people will like me. And so I need to do this. And it's weird to see. but it's also something where I'm like, I've just always sat back and observed people. I've always been a people watcher, and
Mhm.
I hang out a lot more with the nicer people than I do the assholes. And
Well,
it's
good.
it is, but it's funny because I fit more of the asshole area because I'm just
Well,
it is it's weird because I wouldn't consider myself an asshole. Like I feel like I'm a caring person. I feel like my grandfather raised me to be a caring person, but I also understand that I'm introverted and I'm a INFJ if you understand those. Um,
I do,
like
and
the
I
Myers
am
test.
an INTJ
Yeah. I was like, I'm an
or
INFJ.
EN. Maybe I'm an EN.
Yeah.
I think I'm
I
an
was I'm an
ENTJ.
INFJ. I'm very like to my core, I'm very introverted. Like I don't like being around people. I don't like associating with people. I like keeping my crowds very small, but everything that I do puts me around people. Like I was an athlete in school, and I was one of our top athletes, and then I played in college, and then when I came back, I started teaching, and I've always worked with kids, and I've always been around kids, and I've always been around nonprofits, and I've been on boards, and I've been in
Mhm.
just the public light, and people think, well, no, 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 he's an extrovert. I'm like, no, like I hate all of this, like I really do. Like this drains me so much. I was like, and it makes people think that I'm an asshole because when I get to that point where I'm just completely drained, I just shut down and I'm just like, dude, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to deal with you. Get out of my face. It is not me being an asshole. It's just me needing to recharge. Like it's just like, hey, I've been around you guys for a long time right now. I just need to disappear for like a week and recharge, and then I'll come
Yes.
back. It's so
Yes.
yeah, it is. It's a very weird sense. So like, I really want to know what it takes for someone to get out of those relationships when they see those narcissistic traits.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about a lot of things there,
I
but
did.
one thing I do want to touch on is that what you've talked about though is you have a lot of self-awareness. You have a lot of self-awareness of who you are. You have self-awareness that, okay, I've been out doing all this public stuff. I'm feeling drained. I need to go recharge. You you know all of that about you. Narcissists are not self-aware. And the second part that I want to address as well is that a self-proclaimed asshole, a person who is a jerk, an asshole and stuff, uh, they know they are. So, I guess there's some self-awareness around that.
Mhm.
But a confident person is very different from an asshole because in my experience at least, you know especially with my second husband, the malignant narcissist, he was very he was just mean, and he would use anyone to get whatever he needed to get, and you were only useful for him to get what he needed from you. So he would fake this sense of empathy, right? And I'm sure you're an empathetic person, you're a caring, empathetic person. And that's another big difference as well. Narcissists are not empathetic. They can fake empathy. So, for instance, my ex husband could say, oh, gosh, your dog died. He could create tears. I mean, he could cry on the spot. I mean, he
Yeah.
was the best actor. And he could have all these tears for you, give you a hug, and as soon as because he might need something from you later on, and so he's building up his cachet, of favors that he needs from everyone. So he'll
Mhm.
fake these tears, he'll give you a hug, and then he'll go off and just say, "Oh, that effing B, hate dogs and I hate this and blah, 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 you know, and
Yeah.
so the very, very different. He's faking the empathy to get what he wants because he's going to need to use you in a little bit. So how does a relationship with a narcissist end? So going back to the cycle of narcissistic abuse, in the beginning is the idolization phase where they become everything you want them to become. Then there's the devaluation where they start criticizing, manipulating, gaslighting, all this stuff, and they leave you in this huge, traumatic trauma bond and cognitive dissonance, all this stuff. You're in this fog of confusion. So how do you get out? Discard is the last phase. So discard is exactly the way it sounds. What do we discard? We discard trash. We discard things that we have used up and no longer serve a purpose in our life. And so most people, there's only two ways out. You are going to be discarded like a piece of used up garbage, or you find worthiness within yourself and you become very brave and very courageous and you leave. And you go 100% no contact and you never associate with this person ever again in your life. So those are the only two ways out. And so I like to see people leave the relationship, and it's very hard to leave. If you look at the statistics in domestic violence, it takes someone leaving 6 to 8 times of leaving before they actually leave for good.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that is what I call the terror barrier. So when you have been programmed, so when you leave a narcissist, it is as if you are leaving an cult. You have been brainwashed. You have been programmed and conditioned to live from this place of reaction. And so let's say you have all this X conditioning, right? And now you start entertaining this idea that, oh, they're not treating me right. I'm being disrespected. I'm being gassed. I'm being manipulated. I'm being controlled. This is an abusive relationship. I need to go. So you start entertaining this idea in your head. But then what happens is that all this doubt and worry kick into your mind, into your conscious mind. Like, can I really successfully leave this person? Will people believe me? Do I have the money? A lot of them, remember, it's a power controlling relationship. So sometimes the narcissistic partner has controlled all the finances. Part of the manipulation is that they've told you all these lies. No one's going to believe them if you start to tell them about who I really am. No one is going to love you the way I love you. I mean, but we start to believe these lies and these untruths. We start to believe them. You're not going to make it out there on your own. You can't live without me. So they've told you all these lies. So then now you're trying to leave. You're entertaining this idea of leaving. But now all this doubt and worry come into the conscious mind. Am I really going to make it? Am I the narcissist? Because sometimes they'll say, well, you're the narcissist. You have a disordered personality. You're crazy.
Yeah.
And so then fear kicks in and you hit this like terror barrier where you want to leave, but physically now you have all this anxiety, all this stuff is going on in your body. And so you try to leave, but then you come back. You try to leave and you come back. And so this is why it takes multiple times for someone to actually leave these relationships. It's very hard to leave because of all that conditioning, all that brainwashing.
Yeah.
But if you don't leave, they're going to discard you because it's a game. And if they can't get any more use and supply from you, they'll go get it from the next person.
Those are very good notes. Very good notes. Very good segues. And I'm sorry for the little confusion while I was looking around. We had a little tremor here, so things started shaking.
Oh,
yeah, Japan's notorious for that. So
Yes.
Like,
And where in Japan are you again? I can't
oh,
can't remember.
I'm in Sendai. Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah,
don't know.
Sendai is like 5 hours north of Tokyo. It's kind of
Oh, okay,
smack dab in the middle of Japan. Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, it's like I've been here a year, about a year and 2 months now, and I think I've went through at least 20 earthquakes. Like at
Oh
least,
wow.
yeah. Like they happen all the time. Like it's to the point to like if it's not over a 4, I don't even feel it anymore. Like,
Oh wow.
and I notice it with our new teachers. When our new teachers get here, like they'll ask, they're like, "Who was woken up by the earthquake last night?" And I just like, I don't know. I was sound asleep. Like,
You're like, what
yeah,
earthquake?
if an earthquake happened, like I couldn't tell you about it. Like it's like, and but yeah, it's great information. It's been a great episode. It's been one of my more informative episodes. So like I hope my listeners really pay attention and give it a good listen. They've been a little more conditioned to laughter in my episodes, and we laughed a little bit, but this is more of a social informative episode that I wanted to do and that we've been doing. My last episode was um, about autistic awareness, and
Mm.
it's been I've taken a week off. We've been very busy at school because we're year round here. Like our break was like we graduated our sixth graders, and then we took a week break and came right back to school. And so that's Japan. And so
Mm.
yeah, and so it's been a busy time, but it's also been a time where I've been very selective of my guests because I just want more informative episodes, more episodes that are going to reach a broader audience and bring more people into the podcast. Um, Bring more guests into the podcast too. So this has been very good. I'm very thankful and very grateful that you took time out of your day to come do this episode. Um, and I really hope that my audience enjoy it, and I hope that you had a good time on the episode. I hope that you enjoyed.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah,
I love spreading awareness and talking about it. So
and it's been a great episode. And unless there's anything else you want to say to the audience, I think we've hit a point where we can end it well.
yeah, I just want to throw one last parting advice out
Go
there.
ahead.
Is that so many of us, we stay in these relationships because we think that if I change all this stuff about me, I will get that person back that I fell in love with, that person in the idolization period. But really, you fell in love with yourself because they were mirroring you.
Hmm.
It's an illusion, and it doesn't matter what you do to change all these different parts about you. You're never going to get that person back because that person was never real. And that's really hard for a lot of people to grasp and understand. And, we cannot change them. Again, narcissism is a disordered personality. Until they become self aware and become aware and actually want to do the work on themselves to heal all these protective layers of self that they have put on, there's going to be no change. And you will not change them. You will only bury yourself further and further and further down in, in bondage. You will never be free. You have to let them go. And that is the most loving thing as well. Let them go
Hmm.
and move on. And it's really hard for people to hear because they think that we can change them. Oh, I can change them.
Yeah.
No, you can't. The most loving thing for you to do for them and for you is to let them go and you move forward with your life. because there's good, healthy people out there.
Oh yeah. And that's a very good note to end it on. And once again, I just want to say thank you, and that I'm very grateful that you took time out of your day to do this episode. And to my audience, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. This has been your host of Conversing with Drinks, Cedric Turner, and I'm so appreciative of everyone that has tuned in to the episodes and listened to the episodes. And I hope that you guys have a great day and you continue to tune in. And Miss Stephany Ann, I appreciate you a lot for coming on the show and helping spread awareness when it comes to narcissistic relationships and all these other things. And I want to apologize again for my word fumbling because it is 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. Something
Wow.
like that in the morning here in Japan, and I have to be up to go teach a class. So
Oh,
it's
shoot.
it's been great. And I appreciate everybody tuning in. Once again, this has been your host of Conversing with Dream Center. Peace. We out.